Big shout out to Bean Working Espresso down in Skyring Terrace, Newstead.
Best coffee in the game.
Best absolute coffee in the game. Hooking the Platform podcast, and any listeners up with a 10% discount.
Shout out.
Shout out to Yolanda.
Yolanda.
That was a mouthful.
Their coffee's real fucking good.
Best coffee in the game, by far. Just opened up Skyring Terrace. You can order ahead and mention the Platform podcast for a 10% discount. This is the Platform podcast with B-Bad and Brandon. Oh, what an episode.
Damn.
I'm actually really excited for this one.
Yes.
We've got a couple of lifting legends beside us, in between us.
The in-betweens.
Yeah. This is pretty special for us.
Powerlifting royalty.
I said that before to Mason, and he just scoffed. Ha! Yeah, see? I was like, what are you talking? Even Dino's having a good old laugh.
Well, they moved some weight.
They've moved a bit of tin in their time. Yeah. How old are you, legends?
Oh, geez, that was one question I didn't want to go with, actually.
Well,
around 60.
Around?
Yeah, thereabouts. A little either way.
We'll leave it up to the audience to decide. Yeah. Dino, how old are you yourself?
Sprightly 62.
Sprightly 62.
Yes.
So those amazing two voices you heard was Dino Toci and Mason Jardine. Welcome to the Platform podcast.
Nice to be here.
There'll be an applause in the audio.
On the audio and the video. Should be pretty good.
We'll teach you how to find it after.
All right, Dino. You got 21 words, who you are and what you do or did.
Dino Toci. I did powerlifting, played a bit of gridiron, did a bit of karate, did a bit of shooting, mechanic by trade, currently working as a diesel fitter.
That was pretty close, actually, I think it was awesome. Mason, 21 words.
Yeah, Mason Jardine, been a powerlifter for a lot of years, still on the executive board with Capo, done a lot of bull riding over the years, done a lot of shooting over the years, still do a lot of shooting, and competition shooting and big game hunting, and that's about it at the moment.
That's about it, that's a lot.
That's not too bad.
It was pretty close to 21. You spoke so fast, I miscounted a few, so we'll say it was 21.
Right,
well done.
21.
Great work, lads. Now, powerlifting. You both were there pretty much in the beginning.
Ooh. We weren't. Dino was a bit before me. We weren't quite at the beginning. We sort of started. Dino started in 78.
Yeah, 78 I started training.
79. I was about 80, late 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But really in Australia, probably, would have started 73, 74.
Yep.
Yeah, wow.
The guys who were back then pretty much all gone now. It's the only one. I don't think there's any of them left.
Yuri.
Yuri's
still in.
Yeah, Henry mentioned Yuri.
Still
Yeah.
from the original crew.
Yep.
The rest have all passed on, mostly.
Yep.
But, that was,
I can't remember
Long time ago.
exactly who was involved in that initial one, but Frank Lamp was a big driver.
Frank Lamb, John Wright.
John Wright, yeah, Johnny used to compete
Billy
against
Keir.
How'd you,
What's his name? Ron Modra?
Ron Modra, yeah.
Yep.
So how'd you come across it?
yeah, how'd you guys discover powerlifting back then?
Powerlifting was, for me, I just wanted to go and do some training, just get bigger and stronger. And went down the local National Fitness Hall in Ayr, which where I'm from, and I started training at that gym. And some guys said, "Oh, there's a powerlifting competition coming up. Do you want to go in it?"
Yep.
Well, where is it? So, it's Cairns. So it's a good weekend away.
Your beauty. Here we go.
A few of the lads together, let's go.
Yeah, so that's how I started.
Do you remember your first comp? Like totals or anything like that?
Not very.
What about yourself, Mace?
Yeah, early 80s. Actually, powerlifting was a different animal than it was today. There wasn't powerlifting gyms. They used to have gyms that had powerlifting, or people trained at home in a corner, that sort of stuff. And it was there were several isolated groups. There was, in West Australia, had its group with Bruce Waddell and Paul Jordan. Paul Jordan was sort of he sort of started off there. After Worlds in 77, Paul stayed in Australia.
Yep.
And that was sort of the driving force in West Australia. Queensland, Victoria were pretty much it until a little bit South Australia. Mm-hmm. But it was like pockets of just around Australia. Brisbane, probably I would say the maximum powerlifting there would have been in Australia at any given time back then, 500.
Yep.
You reckon, Dino?
Yeah, that's about it.
That's it.
That
It
would have
wasn't-
pulled it up.
And that's over the whole of
That's
Australia.
registered lifters.
And probably Queensland, Perth and South Australia and Melbourne. Ray Rigby was a major player in the early days, and Bruce Waddell, who had been to several worlds in the late 70s,
Yep.
right through to the early 80s. He was
Yep.
probably the most experienced lifter we had. And, of course, Glenn Waskill,
Yep.
who was in Brisbane, he was Brisbane at the time.
Yeah, well, they all wound
and
up.
Ray Rigby,
Waskill was up in Goldsworthy. He went up to Goldsworthy because
that's
Topeka
right,
was
yeah.
there. I think Paul Jordan was there for a while. And they had a number of lifters in Goldsworthy at the mine.
Just little pockets around the place. Kalgoorlie was one.
Oh, really?
Terry
Wow.
Lonsdale and Steve Sandrini.
Steve
and
Sandrini.
there was another guy there, I can't think of him. But there were the little pockets of 3 or 4 lifters like all
Yep.
over the place. But there
Yep.
was nothing like the numbers of today,
Yeah,
It's-
there's a powerlifting comp every
yeah.
weekend too,
Well,
right?
there was only ever one
There is
federation,
now, yeah.
so it was
Yep.
pretty a lot simpler, really.
Yeah. And what how were you finding the comps? Like, how did they come up?
Again, I moved to Perth. I'd been over the territory and I was bull catching and rodeoing over there. Then I went to Cairns.
Bull catching.
Pulling buffalo, actually, in a place called
Pulling
Mudgeonberry
buffalo.
Station. Yeah, Mudgeonberry Station, which is in the corner of Arnhem Land.
What did you do with them when you caught them?
No, we're catching them live, catching them for export.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And they were just running wild.
Yeah. There was before they shot them out in the 80s, 90s. They done what they call the BTEC sheet. They shot about 400,000 of them out of
Wow.
choppers, but because there was spreading TB. But at the time, we used to catch them out of Toyotas.
Out of
I don't know
Toyotas?
if you ever seen them, the bionic arms, where they
Yeah.
drive alongside and the big comes
scoop
down
them
and
up.
catches them, or
around the neck.
helicopters, and we'd run them into wings. Armour-plated Toyotas,
Yep.
V8 Toyotas.
And you were driving the Toyotas?
Yeah, we were driving the Toyotas. Yeah. Funny, some of the guys I was with, one of the guys I was bull catching with was a guy called Rod Ansell,
Yeah.
who was the guy they based Crocodile Dundee on.
Really?
And he got caught at Fitzroy River, and there's a bit more story of that in the actual Crocodile Dundee movie, but
Yeah.
but he was the guy who they based it on. If you Google it, you'll find the
Yep.
whole story.
And you were
about
catching
him.
bulls.
We were catching with him, yeah.
With him?
He got actually shot by the police in about, I don't know, 20 years ago now.
A few years ago.
Yeah, a few years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he went mad, but territory sort of thing,
Bloody hell.
That's quite a job.
Yeah. Yeah, the group I was with, actually 4 or 5 of us, one of them ended up pranging a chopper. One shot himself accidentally. One got shot by the police, so it was a bit of
Bit of a motley,
I sort of think about this thing too,
a bit of a motley crew you were
Not many left
running
from
around
it.
with.
Yeah, they were. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Well, I guess you got to be a little bit crazy to be trying to catch.
But it was a
buffalo.
frontier up them, like the territory
Yeah.
was like Alaska,
Yep.
Different to today.
Yeah.
Way different, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
No. So then you went over to Perth, you were saying?
Okay, no, it wasn't Perth. We went up to Cairns, and that was when I ran into Dino at about that era, late 80s, and we were training at the same
Yeah,
gym, which is a
about
guy
81.
called John Darby. There's another guy from the era that we forgot about,
Yeah.
who was lifting at Worlds back then. And again, he had a gym, and they had powerlifters at it, and I was just sort of half by. I was doing a bit of kickboxing at the time and that sort of stuff, so we went down and done some training for that, general strength training with it. And I saw these guys training, like, geez, that looks all right, so I'll give that a go. Ended up, John asked me to do a comp, and I went in a comp.
Yep.
And the main thing was when I watched the 81 Nationals, before Bev Francis, 80 or 81, before
81,
Bev
yeah.
Francis went to Hawaii, where she done that 150 bench.
Yeah.
She actually done a 140 at 75 at the Cairns Nationals
What?
that year. And
Oh,
that's
yeah, that was
going
an
back
awesome
to-
bench.
yeah, she
Far
was.
out.
That was in a 3-lift.
Yeah.
3 lift. There's no
3
such
lift
thing as
comp.
3
Oh,
lift.
there's only
There's
3.
no such thing as anything but 3 lift. She was the first chick to go 500 pound deadlift, 227 in the world,
Wow.
and 300 bench.
300 bench.
300 pound.
Fuck.
Yeah, so
Pounds.
137, which was
Yep.
in that day for a 75, 82.
That's amazing.
She was never a full 82. She was 77, 81.
Yep.
At the best in Hawaii, I think she was 81.
Wow.
But she was actually training at that Derby's gym.
Yeah.
And, like at that, if you ever seen pictures of her, she was like, ended up getting beaten by Corey Everson at the Olympia a few years later. So she was that level, like Olympia level, as a bodybuilder too.
Fuck.
And she had a little boob tube thing on and tight shorts. And I don't know who it was, lifting the bench. I think it was Bruce Waddell. And she just sort of got under it. Thought, look at this, this chick, and just sort of got that.
Yeah.
Hey.
Never seen that before, but the whole lot, the way she got under it and arched.
Yeah.
And the whole lot come, crikey, look at this, and wait, in them days, 300-pound benches are still, or 140 benches are still pretty good,
pretty good.
let alone a 75-kilo chick 40 year ago.
Bloody hell. That's unreal.
Because there's a lot, Sue Jordan, Heidi Whittish, there are a lot of...
No female came close. I'm not sure if that came close, but that only
That
just
only
got broken in
recent.
2018.
Yeah,
and probably if
that's
you look
right.
at weight divisions too, they're done at 75, 82.
Yeah, and I think Sarah Rainbow broke it at Pro Raw 10, which was 2018, but she was competing at about, I think, 90 and above.
Yeah.
And that's insane.
What's the other name? That other girl, Chloe.
Cleo.
Cleo?
Yeah.
Yep.
She done, I think, around.
Yeah, she came close.
We
should know that too.
Close, but anyway.
But yeah, again, a bit heavier as well.
Bit
No one
heavier,
at
yeah.
75. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's a huge bench. So when did you boys do your first nationals? Do you remember your first nationals?
Mine was 79 at the South Perth Civic Centre.
Yeah, cool.
So
What was that like? They were taking teams from
Learning
different states and stuff like
experience.
that, or how did it all work back then?
what was that?
Did they take in different teams from each state, or
Yeah,
everyone
so
was
the
kind of
way
going
the way
themselves?
powerlifting worked in those days, it was obviously one association. So that was the Australian Amateur Powerlifting Federation. Queensland had the Queensland Amateur Powerlifting Federation. So from regional level, you had to qualify to go to your state championships. The qualifying level wasn't high, but it was there. So I think that gave lifters the opportunity to hone their skills a little bit. Went to the States, then you got selected on the basis of the ability to score points for your team. So it was all about the team shield. So that limited the numbers at national level. So, if you're a 52 kilo lifter and you could win the national championships, you went. If you're a 52 kilo lifter and you'd place fifth, good chance you wouldn't be on the team because it'd be someone else that score more team points there for you.
Yep.
So that was the basis that we went there. So you brought your best lifters forwards, and the competition was fairly fierce. You had, it was 2 hour weigh-in, 1 bar, and as we were talking before, it was rising bar. It was no round system.
What's that like to compete with a rising bar system? So that's something.
You gotta
We should probably say what that is, because
Yeah, I was going to say a
people
lot of
probably
listeners
listen to this
these
and are like,
days.
"Oh yeah, rising bar, totally." What is that?
Progressive loading, so there's no rounds. Like as the bar goes up from 20 kilos to whatever, 400 or whatever you're going to lift, 300, it goes up incrementally in 2.5 kilos or whatever you call. So if you've called for 275 and there's 2 lifters in front of you on 270, if they can then change their attempt to 277
And then you have to go.
and leave you stranded with no knee wraps on.
Oh fuck!
So the point I'm making is that it was fairly vicious, the competition.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that was only
Yeah.
during
Strategy
that was
comes
only
into
in
play
comp.
a lot more
Mason's had a couple of good what would you call it, experiences. Bruce McDowell caught you out. He did a competition, and I think he learned everything there was to learn about getting caught out in one comp. And Bruce was just laughing at him all the time, but it wasn't, like laughing at him because you got caught. It was just the way the competition was. It was great mateship.
Yeah, what he'd done was, you had, from the time you'd finished, you had 1 minute to put your attempt in, and if you're following yourself, you had 3 minutes. So you had 4 minutes. And I was a pretty good squatter. So essentially, you're going to do 3 in a row.
Yep.
So in 8 minutes, you're going to do your rope and your second attempt, your third attempt. And you've got 4 minutes between each one. So that
And
was all
that's
you
put
had.
knee wraps on and off.
Yep.
Yep.
But what he'd done was a guy called Warren Lamb, Frank Lamb's son. He was in between, and Bruce was watching me and he was hearing me suit creaking, and I blew me suit on the opener and tipped me over.
Yep.
So straight away he put Lampy's attempt in 2.5 kilo more, same in weight, because you could do it right up to hitting the bar.
Oh.
So he put the same weight in, Lampy went out and done it, and then you've only got 1 minute because you're not following yourself.
Oh fuck!
So he had it set up, so he's out there, and I got 1 minute to get out of a suit, into a suit, wrap up, rewrap, and out.
And a suit that's blown.
With a suit that's blown. So cut that off. So you just cut them off, and left the wraps on. Put a soft suit on and went out and got it, but it didn't do me any good. And then I repeated it at another comp not much later, and he must have never learned. But the other one I had followed me because I was a pretty good squad at 82. I was around 300.
Yep.
And
pretty good. Pretty good.
You'd have to, and because in Australia, if there were 90s, they'd be up there with you. So that'd spread it out a bit.
Yeah.
But if you were at the 75s and 82s lifting together, you knew you were going to get 3 in a row.
Yep.
8 minutes for 3 lifts.
Yep.
You know, when you try to be talking this loaders into slowing down, they'd be,
Yeah.
Which is still, but you can only squeak so much out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the weights are wrong.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Check
them.
Bloody hell.
But yeah, it was a different time and a different place. But essentially, you train like that too. So
Yeah.
it wasn't a surprise.
You kind of
to
accommodated
you knew
for
it was
it.
going to be there. It wasn't surprising. Olympic lifters still do progressive loading,
Yep.
but they've got a different issues than we had. You know,
Yeah.
they haven't got equipment. You know, so
Yeah, we got to deal with knee wraps and all that sort of shit. So, before and I want to keep going through this chronologically, but I'm dying to know, what were your best lifts? Best numbers?
Dino or me?
Both.
Both.
I want to know.
Oh, you go first.
All right. As an 82, I was the first to go over 800 as an 82, and I went 82. But I did go over it. I'd never done it twice, actually. And then Laurie went 807, I went 810. Then Laurie took it to 825, and I never lifted as an 82 again. In that was a 310 squat, about a 192 bench, and I was over 300 deadlift. But I don't know that I ever actually done them
Back on the one.
the one comp.
Actually, Mason, you missed the best
I did, yeah.
deadlift that you ever pulled at 82, and it was about half an inch off locking out, and it was a 320. And I was sent a referee.
Yeah.
Oh,
I had to give him reds.
Oh, well.
No, I never got it. But
that's no problems.
Laurie had got it. I don't know if it was
worry, it's been
320 or
returned.
317. I tried to do a 320 and it was close. But
fuck.
I
At
started
82,
cutting.
that's huge. That's
and a 2L won't.
Yeah,
On
that's
it all.
that's the.
And with the
One bar.
even though
One bar.
yeah,
Not-
one
That's
bar.
true.
They're all
Specialist
28 mil
bars.
bars. You started
was
on
that?
so many.
And that's
Barbell like?
That's not a.
Just a power bar?
That's just
No.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
bring it
just
in
power.
for you.
Oh, you've still got it? Of course
Yeah.
you do. You probably made
the
it.
bar you started on.
No, I didn't
couldn't be
make that one.
changed.
But,
Yeah.
The bar can't be changed in the comp.
Yeah, right.
Unless it's bent.
Yeah,
Unless
that's
it's damaged, you had to lift.
But-
and that was an IPF rule. Still is.
that's insane because all these numbers now they're done on these Texas deadlift bars with a bit whippy and like you guys are pulling some stiff as fuck bars. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, what you gained in one, if you had a stiff bar, was good in squatting and bad in deadlifting.
Yeah.
And the other way around. Some of the Elite bars were a bit whippier,
Yep.
especially if you used Olympic bars.
Yep.
But you couldn't get out with them squatting.
That'd be hard to
They'd
squat
just
with.
bounce around.
Yeah.
And so where you gained in one, you lost in another.
you'd bounce them around.
Yeah, I did.
Seeing you do a waltz across the platform with about
Oh, that's the other
330
thing.
on
You
your
guys
back.
didn't have mono lifts really,
No,
but
they didn't exist.
everything was walked out.
Walk it out.
Bloody hell. And Dino, what was your best numbers?
I missed my best squat at 100. It was, I got 312 to 84 Nationals. I got 312, and that's when the national squat record got broken about 5 times in the one comp.
Fucking hell.
So there was 317 and a half I just tipped forward with.
Yeah.
At 110, I think best squat was around 335. 116, squatted 350,
Bloody hell.
benching 240s. 230 at the 88 Worlds. And deadlift was up, depending on which comp. Best one over pull was 367 and a half at about, I think it was 110.
Yeah, 110.
Fuck.
Yeah.
So you were the...
That was
in a 3 lift line 20 comp. The best total was 937 and a half, but there was 240 bench there on a 4th attempt. Because I was
Fucking
just
hell.
nursing a sore pec, so I thought,
I'm just going to nurse the sore pack and then I'm going to bench
go
240.
230 and then go, well, that felt all right, I'll go 240. So I did that, and that same comp I opened 335, pulled 365. I reckon I didn't have it locked, so I went again. Then I pulled 377 and a half, have a crack at, I think it was Arthur White's Commonwealth record.
Bloody hell.
Got it about three-quarters of the way up.
Yeah, it was a good. You know, could have been there. You know, it wasn't.
But that's following yourself as well. So
That's following yourself too.
'cause there's no one else.
That's something to be thought about as well.
Well, you train for it. You know, we trained for it. Like when we were training, I think Mason will agree with that. You know, there was no bullshit. Like, what was that squat like, Mace? It was high.
Go again.
Oh, you're right, eh?
And you were were you the first to pull 800?
I was first to pull
In
800
Australia?
when 700 was considered big. So, yeah,
That's got to be pretty
In
fucking sick.
1983.
3, 4.
In Maryborough.
A long time ago.
Maryborough,
In Maryborough.
yeah. 363 and a half.
It's 84, I think, before we went down to Melbourne, because you'd done it before. You'd done that 350 down there, I think, or about that same time.
Fuck.
Yeah, pulled 350 to 100.
And your
But that was
But that was second attempt.
Your 365, that stood for a long time as well, didn't it?
22 years.
Before anyone beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And I think the first time they beat it was actually in single lift comp.
really. It wasn't even done
As a number, not as
Yeah.
a 100.
Yeah, who did that?
It's only in the last.
Yeah,
It
Strongman. Boyer. Derek, yeah.
was only done in the last
Well, that
10 years ago.
10
or
years,
something.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I remember seeing Derek have a crack at it
Big fella.
out at Kelbar.
Yeah, he had a go at it.
Yeah, made a big commotion. And
2,
he
3,
didn't get
4
it.
times,
We had to
yeah.
change the song for him and everything,
Yeah,
but he missed it.
Yeah.
yeah, just left it.
Bloody hell. That's
But used to train. Well, that was a sport back then. Was a 3 lift comp, and your aim when you went to a nationals was the national title. It wasn't a single lift. And really,
And if you went to the Nationals back then, you were there to fucking win.
And it meant something to get on the
What
team.
is it?
Yeah.
yeah, well, you had to work to get onto the team, and so your whole year was planned out from January to December, basically, with the World Championships.
Bloody hell. That's
And
awesome.
did both you lads go on to do world champs?
Yeah, I was lucky. I did 7
7 worlds.
7 worlds. Yeah.
Which countries?
Oh, where'd we go? First one was Calcutta, India, 81.
Say
That was-
India, sorry? India.
Calcutta, India.
Bloody hell. What was that like?
Yeah, pretty ordinary. You know, the people were good. Actually, it's amazing that when you go away to these competitions, people actually know who you are. You go to another country and they go, that's where I saw my first autographs, Calcutta, India.
Really?
Yeah, guys pulled me up. I was walking down the street with Bruce Vidal. Well, yeah, I want your autograph. Who's this to? Rajesh or whatever his name was. Don't know. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
So, yeah, you got to watch what you say because it comes back many years later, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
you know, I've had guys come up and they know who you are, especially when you lift in Europe, like Scandinavian countries. They're red hot. They know exactly what you've done.
Yep.
They're awesome. Because it was 80, where was it? Think of it in a minute. Anyhow, what happened was Len Skeen, who's passed away, was a 56 or 60.
Another one.
He was out of Victoria, yeah. He was out of Victoria and he handed out, I was doing 180 bench in the week leading up to it, and he lifted it, because I was using suicide grip. He lifted it off my hand and dropped it across my chest. And everyone's running around. I just grabbed it and pushed it back. Did it again. We did it again, and so I did it properly, like competition style. And people in the gym just stood up and standing ovation, you know,
Yeah.
because they know they're red hot. They're right onto it.
Bloody.
Yeah, they're very, very knowledgeable people. All those people like Finland, Norway, the Finns are awesome.
That's amazing.
They had a lot of good lifters.
Yeah,
Scandinavian
lots.
countries were really
Yeah.
good. Back then, that was luckily before the era of the Russians.
Yeah.
They never turned up until the mid-90s. Pretty much, they were they didn't lift. They didn't powerlift.
Yep.
And for 2 years, they were a non-event. But before that, it was always the Americans with the team to beat. You know, they had cone bridges like all those guys of that era again.
Yeah.
That bloody Cohen fella.
Yeah.
So you got to lift against him.
Yeah. Same platform, not against him.
Yep.
Kept out of the hundreds.
Didn't want to go near them.
That bloody Cohen
Did you
fella.
ever cross paths with Ed Cohn back then?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
84, I think.
Yeah,
Didn't go
84.
in
Then he
83.
came
84
back
was the first comp that I saw Ed.
Then he came back in 88. That was his comeback
Yeah.
comp. And that was in Perth.
Yeah, right.
And he lifted there as a... It was like he got he only got two white lights in the whole squat thing. He was lucky to get through it, but he's a great lifter. But he blew his suit on his opener, and it went over his head, which was pretty common in the old suits back then. If you ordered them, you had to order them. If you sent your measurements that big, they couldn't blow.
And how were you sending your measurements? You fill it out in a piece of
Yeah,
paper
it was just
and post them a letter?
That's it.
Yeah.
Or ring them up.
Ring them up. You'd have to ring America. So you'd have to get up at 2:00 in the morning or something to ring Texas and speak
Order
to
your
someone.
suit.
That's hilarious. There's no email. We'll get to it.
No, none of that.
That is some old.
Well, that was the other thing is when you how did you get the information, your training information?
Yeah.
So you only had like Iron Man magazine.
Yeah.
Powerlifting USA.
Powerlifting USA came out, and that was a godsend. That was just a great magazine.
Wait for every
and
episode
then
to come out.
the way that I learned a lot of the stuff was just you go to the next level. So if you had a regional level, you go to the state championships and you ask those lifters. Then you go to the nationals. But the trick is wait till they've got a couple of beers at the presentation dinner and then ask them what you want.
Loose lips. Because before the comp, they're probably a bit
Well,
tight lips, eh? They don't want to tell you their secrets.
The pressure's off as well.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
So look, I see you do this. Why do you do that? And just ask them the one question that you really want to know the answer to. And quite often, actually not quite often, all the time, they're all.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if it's from this country or any other country. Any question I've ever asked of any lifter has always been answered. So, the powerlifting community, like, great bunch of people.
That would have been cool. Like when you guys were travelling for Worlds and stuff, the international lifters, you got to just go to those dinners and stuff with and chat to them, pick their brains on stuff.
Yeah, and the things you saw, I saw 81 was the first year of the 125s. So John Paul Sigmason, you'd know that name.
Yeah.
Saw him lift.
Did you?
Yeah.
He was
awesome.
he was
Very
a
explosive.
Wow.
Really explosive, yeah.
That would have been cool to see.
Yeah. And Paul Wren, almost like everybody talks about the first 1,000-pound squat.
Yep.
If you go back and have a look at the comp sheet,
Yep.
I think you'll find that his third attempt was 1,000 pound and he almost got it. I've got 2 or 3 photos on that.
Where did he miss it, or did he get standard up?
No, well, 3/4 of the way up.
Wow.
It didn't bury him.
Yeah.
He got it at least halfway up.
Yep. Fuck.
He was a strong man. He's just really strong. I actually saw him train in the week leading up to it, and I couldn't believe how striated his legs were for a big man.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. That's insane.
It was a good era. Like powerlifting and strength training were at 81. Schwarzenegger just made Conan the Barbarian, so they had the Olympia in Sydney that year.
Oh yeah.
So that was a big event, the
absolutely.
IPB Olympia. Then Dean Lucan won the Olympic gold. First time ever Australians ever won, probably a medal, but let alone a gold medal at Olympic lifting. And that was in 88. The women's worlds were in Perth in 83, the juniors worlds in 84. There was a lot of lifting and there wasn't a lot of lifters. So the guys who were lifting got a fair bit of mileage out of seeing people at them. It was a good era to be lifting in.
That's unreal.
Absolutely, because I guess for the younger generation coming through, and you guys have helped a lot of lifters develop into some of the fucking unreal numbers we see today. Like you guys have had an impact on, especially the capo community, and obviously you're still heavily involved and influenced in there. Is that something once you got to the end of your careers, really, you guys were looking at of giving back to it, or did that just come organically because people started approaching you, going, "Hey, can you help me out with this?" Like,
both. It evolved as it went by. You sort of, eventually injuries are going to get you. It doesn't matter when it is or where it is. They're gonna stop your career sooner or later. My hips started to go with it when I was, like in the 40s. I had them both replaced by 45. They were both gone. I'm on his third one now.
On your third one.
Yeah, Paul Jordan's on his fifth.
Fuck.
It's easy. So it does tax.
Yeah.
Like Cone's had both of his done, and
Yeah.
Ricky Crane and verting, and it's going to get you sooner or later. And bull riding probably didn't help. You sped it up a bit.
That might have accelerated things.
Yeah, it didn't help. So it's sort of bit as towards the end. Well, you're not going to. That's why. I retired sort of at my best numbers. I want to be remembered as my last game.
Yep.
I didn't want to go on to, look at this old guy, He used to be good once, What a mess now. I never wanted that. I said, I'll remember it on my last. So my last actual lifts, my last squat was a 325 at 90, a 237 bench, and a 332 deadlift. Well, my last actual competition
not a bad last
lifts
comp.
that I'd done. I didn't do them all at the same time because my hips were stuffed, and towards the end I could only really token squat.
Yep.
And I could still deadlift, but I couldn't sumo anymore. I had to come back to conventional, which didn't matter much. I could do it both.
The lesser lift.
Hey?
The lesser lift.
I'm still like
Yeah,
at 90.
it's a party trick. Paul Jordan's right. He calls it a party trick. He's right.
First time I ever lifted on one of those Olympic bars was at the last comp I done. And I thought, what happened there?
It just fucking went. Whoop.
Where'd that come from? Because I only done what I'd trained to do, which is a dead bar at 332, or around that. I knew I was going to pull something like that. And but I'd had one of them. It's different. It's the first one when I walked off. What happened then?
Yeah, that's insane.
There's a big difference in them. But you'd have to get used to them. I wasn't used to them.
Yeah.
So it was as much a hindrance as it was help.
Far out.
Now, yeah, I think we've all been, Brando, both been thinking it the whole time. Bull riding?
Yeah, 100%. Like, how the hell did that come about? Like,
Again, I was up the territory and we were bull catching and buffalo catching and bull catching.
Yep.
At stations up there, and of course they have rodeos there.
Yeah, of course.
And there's nothing else to do. Up there's rodeos and shooting.
Yep.
There's not a lot of other stuff,
You're not
especially in the
doing
80s in the territory.
If you're not doing either of those, you got nothing.
That's it. And so I did rodeo, but as a kid I used to ride a lot of horses and that sort of stuff, and I knew a lot of guys who were actually quite legendary rodeo riders in that era, but I was pretty young, like 12, 13, so I never actually rodeoed, but I used to go to them all, and they would pick up men and bronc riders and that sort of stuff. And then up there, you just go, there's no option. If you go there, you ride bulls, that sort of stuff. So we rode bulls, and it went from there. I ended up all right at it. As a bull rider, I was a great powerlifter. But I used to be sticky enough on them, but that's you've got to be lighter. It doesn't suit heavy. I used to get back to about 75 when I was bull riding, but that's heavy for a bull rider.
Shit.
Yeah.
that's heavy.
Most of the top bull riders aren't real
60,
tall,
65.
but they're very wiry.
Yeah, they're only little guys. There's just too much inertia. Like, the strength of them is phenomenal. They're not, it's unimaginable until you're on one to feel how strong they are. And if you get this far off them weighing 110 kilo, they don't care. They're just going to throw you that far, punch you that far away. So the thing is to be this close to them light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like gymnastics.
Yep.
You're not
Did you
going
ever
to
take any big falls? Did you ever get thrown big?
Oh, yeah.
That's the hip replacement.
You ride the ball, you
Smacked
get the horn, Like, it's only time.
That's called getting smacked down.
Yeah.
No, really?
Yeah. Oh no, they're serious. It's not if, it's
when.
It will happen,
Bloody hell. That's why
I saw
that
one
explains
guy-
the 3 hip replacements.
Well, I did tear me groin bad a few times, and you sort of nothing you do. You can't say, "Oh, stop, whistle." The bull doesn't care. Yeah.
Bull don't
It
give a
finishes
shit.
when I'm finished, mate. So you try to get off, and it's hard to do because you think getting off them's easy. You just like go, well, that'll work up to a degree. You just don't know where you're going to land. The biggest problem is getting stood on. Like
That's a problem, yeah.
900 kilo, 1,000 kilo, stand on you.
That's a problem, yeah.
But I saw one guy get killed up north, stood on.
Jesus.
If they stand on you, they'll kill you.
Jesus
Well,
Christ.
Well, it won't do any good. You might survive it.
It's not a happy day. at
But
the
a lot
office.
of them are. Yeah, that's my father most dangerous. Been 38 killed since the PBR started.
Really?
And nearly all of them by stood on. So.
And that's you follow that today
PBR.
still?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like Formula One's in America, the money involved, and, big bucks.
That's absolutely insane. And then
Unreal.
how did you guys come across shooting? Obviously up in territory again.
Yeah, well, again, everyone all carry guns up there. Because we were buffalo catching, we carried handguns.
Yep.
And because rifles are a bit cumbersome. But we used to shoot a lot in the off-season for pet meat.
Yep.
So you go out and shoot out of vehicles and winch them in and that sort of stuff. So
Little looser gun laws back then too.
down there they're pretty loose back there. Yeah, no one really cared, Jack. It was, yeah.
This is, what, 40 plus years ago?
Well, about 40,
Yeah, bloody hell.
Fuck, what a crazy
Same
time.
thing
but
with
we
you,
used
Dino?
to use the military ones.
Yeah, I started shooting as a teenager, just
Yeah.
going out because my man was a farmman and he used to grow rice
Oh, yeah?
and used to go out in the rice paddies and shoot ducks, put decoys out during the season.
Yep.
Bloody hell.
And went on from there to pig hunting and
Could you both do a bit of hunting still? Or?
Mason does a lot more than I did, but yeah,
We've heard the
from there
stories
I
about
went on.
Mason.
Yeah. So from there, I did. I got involved in clay target shooting in late teens, early 20s,
Yeah, sick.
and Mason still does that today.
Oh,
But
wow.
I got away from shooting.
Yeah, I still do Olympic trench. I've been to 6 nationals
Yeah, right.
Shooting.
shooting.
Still
yeah.
competing?
Not a chance at all. Like, you're up against Michael Diamonds and those guys.
Yep.
You know, they're that far ahead. They're phenomenal. They're freaky. You know.
Yep.
They're like, but they're great. But I've done Africa 6 times.
Wow.
Yeah, hunting. That was good. You get good stories out of there.
That'd be quite an adventure over there.
Yeah, it's an industry over there. It's massive.
Yeah.
The hunting industry is huge in Africa. It's
Yep.
big money.
Yeah, because they'd have places set up specifically for it, and
Oh, it's all over. People don't believe how big it is, and
Yep.
it's a millionaire sport because
Yeah.
just the cost of it, like especially when it comes to elephant and lion and that sort
Yep.
of stuff. You know.
Yep.
So.
fuck,
That's insane.
crazy.
Bloody hell.
And are you still competing in shooting now, or is
Yeah.
it more just for hobby?
I still practice once a week. I don't compete much anymore.
Yep.
Don't just practice, and I still go hunting.
Yeah. That's cool. Maybe we need a platform podcast shooting range experience later down
Well,
the track.
yeah, Mason, you just retired from pretty much work because he was at a range.
Yeah, I was at a pistol range, and I was doing that, but it's gone quiet with the COVID thing, so we don't know what's on the horizon there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done a lot of pistol shooting too. So.
Bloody hell.
That's pretty cool.
That would be fun.
I took Zoe Kruger out.
Oh, did you?
Liza,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But she came over once. I said, "We'll come to the range." But she's actually quite a good shot. Her father actually shot. I'm not sure if it's international.
Yeah.
I think it was international, but he was on the Australian team. I think in the para sort of stuff. He's got a disability with one arm.
Yeah.
So he, but she's a pretty good shot actually. Real good. Yeah.
Not going to mess with
Bit
her.
surprising. Yeah.
That's unreal. Now, a little bit of change of pace, but what do you guys see the difference between powerlifting back in your time and maybe these days in training sort of wise stuff? Because I know you guys are both around gyms still a little bit and helping other lifters out and stuff, but what do you see the difference being?
Oh, the good and bad is the
Yeah.
availability of training material, like all the programs. I think if everybody just went back and had a look at training programs from the 70s, and maybe the early 80s, but mainly the 70s, if they have a look at people like Larry Pacifico, Vincenello, have a look at Doug Hepburn,
I know
those
there's
sort of
a
guys.
strong bloke from back in the
Yeah.
day, Dino Toci.
Very
He knew some
basic
things.
training.
Yeah, I think he knew some stuff. That Dino bloke.
Yeah,
That
just
Mason
go and have a
fella.
look at their
Yeah.
training, and it's basic. And even all those guys out of the 70s, you have a talk to them, and I spoke to as many as I could get my hands on. Like guys like Eddie Pingelli, he's a classic. He had a great. Eddie's no longer with us either. So but he worked as a roof tiler. So he was working all day, and then he'd go training. So how he structured his training was quite clever. Basically, one day a week, I think he did, whenever he could freshen up and train heavy. Rest of the time was he'd turn his work into his training. Up and down ladders with stacks of tiles on his shoulder, and
Bloody, that's you're going to get strong doing that.
Yeah. Gravity hasn't changed over the years.
Yeah.
Weight's still the same. The equipment's changed. Yes, so be it. That's evolution. That was always, and every sport has changed to some degree. Whatever the best way to train is what works for you. Like we trained with a guy years ago. He's probably historically the best powerlifter Australia's ever had. In fact, he won 4 IPF medals at Open.
Yep.
No one's ever done that.
Wow.
Ray Rigby
What
was
skill?
I think
Rigby?
you and Ray were
Yeah,
the
yeah.
second. Waskill.
And Waskill.
14 years straight as Australian champion. You know, like 14 in a row.
Wow.
And heaps of worlds in it. And he was, to watch him train, you'd think, oh my God. But tough as. But he was really strong, really tough. As a technician, not real flash.
Yeah.
Not a bad deadlifter, was he?
Good
His
deadlifter.
technique-wise, ugly as
deadlifter.
squat, but he
Good
squat
bencher.
4 times body weight. He was a 300 squatter at 75.
At 75.
Yeah.
Get fucked.
Yeah, he done
Well, that was the year that him and Charlie both went. Didn't they go 310?
310, but that was, I think they'd done it as light 75, light 82, I think. Oh, no, mightn't have been.
No, they both did it at the state
right.
championship. So you got the Queensland and Victorian state championships.
And they both did 310.
Charlie did 310 down there, and Glenn did 310 up here. And I know Glenn, because I used to train with Glenn. He was coming back from, he'd hold his weight around 78 kilos and drop 3 on a 2-hour weigh-in, 1 bar, and
Bloody hell.
squatted 310. And the really funny part about this story is when you both talk to them on the side, Glenn said, Charlie would have been high. And Charlie goes, Waskill, he squats him high all the time.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Fuck, that's awesome.
But they were
But
both.
Waskill had that ability where he trained just on, like he'd put him in, and he trained just on, and then at a World Championships, it was Larry Pacifico actually said to me, he said, he's squatting high. I said, yeah, I know. He does it in the warm-up, and then he gets it down, and sure enough,
Sinks it on the stage.
Yep, got it down there. So that worked for him. I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. The standard reference was always IPF, you know, which
it's pretty
was
tight.
Pretty
No,
tight.
extremely.
You know, like at Nationals, at every comp, there were IPF referees. There was no other referee. That was all it
Yeah.
was, you know. So
It was just the one federation
yeah,
back
it was one
then.
federation. So
Yeah,
the
different
ball,
ref.
you know, there wasn't
So-
degrees of it, you know.
At Worlds, you'd have a different referee you'd have a referee from 3 different countries, jury.
Did you guys ever ref overseas?
I
Actually,
didn't
I
get
know.
around to doing it.
But
didn't
both
get
you guys
around
are
to
now
it.
world referees.
Yeah.
WPC, Butter Capo.
Yeah. Basically, when we came, originally when they transferred the referees at the time when the WPC started, they pretty much RPL'd all the IPF guys.
Yeah, sweet.
Said, well, you know, what are we going to do? We can't start from nowhere. You guys are all national, in world, whatever you are. Hold that and
Bring you straight across.
equals it.
Yep.
Well, what else can they do? You know,
Yeah,
they can't evolve it
Yep.
because they haven't got time.
How do you see the standard refereeing these days?
Look, there's
Subject to interpretation.
yeah. The biggest problem with it is these days is the social media.
Yep.
And the deception you get of depth
Of camera angles
on camera
and-
angles
yeah.
and that, and you look at some of the, you've got to be joking, you know. But it mightn't be as bad as what you think. Like a camera can only take 2-dimensional; it can't take
Yep.
3-dimensional.
Yep.
And that's why every time you look at it, it appears that the spotter's standing 2 foot above the lifter. And you look at it, yeah, but it's very hard to tell where that line is. And again, if someone takes it on a stage, they're high and they look a mile low
gonna- yeah,
because
yeah.
again they're the roof coming
Yep.
down, you know, because they take it under it, and they'll show you pictures from a comp where they took it under the stage
Yep. Yep.
or where they stand up like they do in most of these, you know, selfie sort of shots. And they look a mile high, but they're probably not, you know, because it's and I think that's bad because it's putting an impression out there. We really don't know what they are.
Yep.
You know, are they good or are they bad? I don't know. You know, they sort of might be right, but they're like a lot of the lifters now, I would say, are very good. A lot of the techniques, I don't think it's any different over the years. It's probably better, all in all, because there was no coaches back then. You had to learn
Yeah,
yourself.
true.
So you sort of got there and worked it out and looked at pictures and where
There was
to
no
hold.
video phones to take videos of your lifts.
No.
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 Do you,
No.
do you think the interpretation of the I guess the most commonly thing that comes up is squat depth? Do you
Yeah.
think that interpretation has changed?
It's always been there from the first comp to the next one. The last one will still be still controversial. You
Yeah.
know, nothing's
If you
changed.
go back to the Ironman magazine and have a look at what happened in the late 70s, probably 79, 80, there was enormous discussion and letters written to and fro, and
wow.
it was a big uproar on squat depth. You know, like we shouldn't do that. And I remember a guy called Brian Smith. And if you have a look at photos in the 80s, he's standing behind nearly every lifter. He was a platform manager for the Worlds.
The sunglasses on.
Sunglasses on, brown sunglasses on. Brian Smith, no longer with us either.
And he would oversee
he said, I'm glad I'm not you guys having a squat to that depth. He said, my knees would be snapping. But that's what the rules were. That's what they
you
were
had
back
to do.
Yeah.
That's the rules.
At one stage, they were going to ban the squat. It was talked about.
Oh, really?
Came up as
it was
it was just
controversial.
getting too hard basket. It was the same with the Olympic clean and press, where it just got too hard to judge.
And they got rid
Where
of
they
it.
could lean back, so they canned it and went to the.
Was there any
the
talk
deadlift.
about what they'd put in instead?
No, they were just going to stick with squat and deadlift, two lift, push.
Bench and
Push,
deadlift.
bench and
Wow.
But they didn't. It was only ever talked about. I don't think it ever got off the ground really that well, and it would have only been an American thing.
Yeah.
The Europeans wouldn't play that game, just the nature of the Europeans.
They like their squats.
Oh, there was
Yeah.
talk about dots getting put on the side of your knee and your hip.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like they went through, everything, the technology of the day. But,
Yep.
if you could find it, it's a good read.
Yep.
Fuck, and then the old Iron Man magazines.
Yeah, well, that's where you got all your info from, that and
Bloody
Powerlifting USA.
Now, you were training back then, going a little bit back to that, like, we really prioritise accessories these days. Was it similar back then, or was it just, you squat, bench, deadlift, and then...
It's basically two different schools of thought, when you have a look at different lifters, and I think if my memory serves me correct, there was a 82 or a 90 called Sylvester Anderson, was
no,
it?
it was Walter Thomas.
Sylvester.
Walter Thomas only ever done the 3 lifts.
Yeah, there were guys there that did a lot of accessory work, and then guys that just did the 3 lifts. Walter Thomas just did the 3.
He's just done 3, and he was 9:35 at 90 back.
Yeah, I think he
100
did
year
at
ago,
81 Worlds. He blew his seat on the first squat. It was
Still come up.
335.
Yeah.
Far out.
Yeah, went right under parallel and came back up with it, and it was Bruce Riddell and myself got him into the next suit, pushed him out for the next one.
Fuck.
Bloody hell.
Yes, it's all. Yeah.
There's different things shoot different guys, and that's something that you probably should be aware of, what suits one person, and even weight divisions. Super heavyweights don't train like lightweights.
No.
They haven't got the fitness, they can't back up as quick, they take longer to recover, and you've got to train them like that. I trained with supers, Dean Coward, and I thought, what's wrong with you, mate? He was hopeless, but even very few people could out-rep me at heavyweights.
Yep.
I was could get in that groove and just
go.
punch them. Just hit the groove and could do it. Like, 5 at 300 and that sort of stuff. Triple 325. that day.
Triple
Yeah,
325.
Didn't matter. I got to a comment on 327, I think. Because I could get in that. If I could get one, I could get.
Get 2.
That was it. The hardest
Far
bit was
out.
getting in a position, getting
Yep.
it, and after that, you're in the groove. Same as sumo deadlifting. Get 1, you can get 10.
Yep.
Oh, well,
You know.
I mean, I don't know if I personally could, but I like you. I like it.
But it's not like conventional. Conventional.
Yeah, absolutely.
You won't pull reps compared to sumo. You get in that groove sumo and.
Do you remember that time we tripled 3? Oh, wait, we haven't tripled
Yeah, I
320.
haven't
Yeah,
tripled
that's right.
Still waiting for that one.
Bloody hell.
Must be soon, I think.
I think it must be.
Yeah.
These guys would have done it when they were about our age.
Did it get competitive for you boys in training?
Yeah, well, obviously different weight divisions.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Different
like
weight
I don't
division, but
think so as
I'm
such.
trying to keep in front of him and he's
Yeah.
trying to catch me, so that
Yeah.
worked out.
So I got competitive.
I don't think I've ever made it. I was
Dino wasn't competitive. He was like, I fucking
No, I'm
got
not
you.
competitive. He just wasn't catching me.
I was working at the prisons in the late 90s.
Of course you were.
Juvenile detention. And anyway, the kids were all in there, and you can imagine a bunch of 18, 19-year-old Samoans and Tongans and the whole show. And they went in there, and they were doing a bit of weights, and I said, I'll bring some weights in and we'll do a deadlift challenge thing, just as a novelty thing. And I got in there, and we just went up 20 kilo jumps.
Yeah.
So that's it, we had to
Plates.
put 20 kilo plates in. Must have been 20, must have been a 2.5 or something. But anyway, might have had 25 plate or something was wrong. Anyway, we went in and we started off at 60. Yeah, everyone can pull that. 100, jumped 100. Yep. 140, they were starting. The little guys were
Starting to
pulling
fall
out.
off.
180, only a couple got that. And one guy pulled a 220 and I started.
And then you started.
And went up and I done 4 at 310. And from then on, I was,
Yeah.
He's guru, you know, I was God. So all that to say was, go to your room, mate. Go to it. And that all off that
Off that go.
that was sort of, whew.
That's a good way to show who's the boss there.
It sort of
Rep off at
cemented
310.
me for years to come. Like.
Your reputation was
lived
sorted.
off it for a while.
I lived off until that generation sort of went out.
Yep. How long did you work in prisons for?
I worked for 20 years in them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, you've done some shit, mate. Oh, I guess you are a bit older.
Yeah, well,
You've got a bit of experience.
Well, we prefer to think of it as
Yeah.
experience.
Just got a little bit more experience than us.
Yeah. Now, that bar in that rack over there, am I correct in saying that's the
We
Dino...
got 2 Dino bars over there.
2 Dino bars? And
But
Dino,
we
could you...
talk about the Dino bar?
oh, they're the what? Yeah.
There's a cambered bar and a squat
Cambered
bar,
bar.
yeah.
Yeah, and could you explain those, what the Dino bar is?
Which one?
Both.
The Dino. The
which
camber
one?
one.
I started making bars probably before I left Air and went up to Cairns, like 78,
Yeah.
79 was the first bar. I've still got that bar.
Do you?
Yeah, I've still got that one. Different sleeves on it because I used the sleeves for another one and then got another set of sleeves. But it's a nice bar. I'm going to re-knurl it shortly. But that's just a 32mm squat bar to WPC specs.
Yep.
Sleeves are the right length. It's the right weight. I made it. I just like the way they behave. But the other one's a cambered bar, and if you want to drag it out and show everyone, it's just got it's actually got a 59mm drop in it. That one.
It's very specific.
Very specific.
This one,
Yeah. Yeah. So the cambered bar, it was made famous by Mike McDonald.
Yep.
As far as I know.
You can watch it on the YouTube.
Yeah, so that the normal cambered bars are tapered out, and you can't get a very narrow grip. With that one, you can grab it close and get a really good stretch on the triceps. But if you're using one, make sure you warm up and stretch and don't tear. You've been warned.
Was there anything running around like that with the square, or they were all?
They
bent
had
back
the
then?
really big, the 6-inch. Like I said, Mike McDonald used to use one with, I think it was 6-inch drop in it. But like, I tried it and I've gone, oh, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I tried them back.
Yeah, we basically used all straight stuff. That one there I used a few years back. I got my bench up to 170 for 3 singles. That's when I was working in the mines doing rotating night shift and day shift. Nice. So yeah, I was still pretty tired from that.
Yep.
But
Still pretty tired from that, did you say?
yeah, and I was crook too, so
Fucking hell.
had a bit of a bout of throat cancer with that one. No, I did it when I was still diagnosed with it, but everything's good now. So
You did that with a...
so
I want to
like I
quote
said,
the words you just said there. A bit of a bout of throat cancer.
Yeah, I did have it. Yeah, but like when you talk to, I'm not alone. There's lots of people that go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff, so.
I don't know if they bench 170 for 3 singles during that period, but each to their own, I guess.
Well, while they're doing rotating night shift, you left that bit out because because that night shift wrecks you.
Not the throat cancer, the night shift.
Yeah, throat cancer.
Well, throat cancer's not real good.
Hey, you're insane. Yeah. I don't know many people who could back up night shift and then bench 170, let alone do it with literal cancer.
And you were doing 170 on that bar? Or straight
No,
bar?
it was straight bar, but I did use that on the light day.
Yep.
Fucking hell, mate.
I did, what you guys know as speed day, but
Yep.
yeah, I was using bands and chains on it.
Yep, before they were even a thing.
Oh no! Well, bands and chains were always
Yeah,
well,
chains especially.
that's a misconception. Like bands and chains were used back in the 50s. No, maybe not bands, but chains.
Chains definitely were. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Chains aren't a new thing.
So just kind of as we know them today, hanging off the bar, adding a bit of extra weight at lockout, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, like I said, there's a time and a place for everything in training.
Yep.
They stop you putting, you can, just to help you different thing. You can overload a bit with them. Bands are good.
Yep.
Provide you've got your head around them and use them correctly. There's a lot of misconception with that too, how people use them.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, sometimes people just put them on there because it looks good for the social medias.
Well, yeah.
including me.
Yeah. If you have a look at some of Louis Simmons' stuff, I think he hit the nail on the head where if you try and push a normal bar really quick, you'll overextend your elbows, whereas and stop pressing at the top, whereas the bands will teach you to press all the way to finish.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point.
Yeah, they'll stop you deliberately slowing down, which you will do subconsciously. You know.
Yeah, and the band will stop you because you'll always be trying to push
Because
and drive
it'll be
through that.
loading up and up and up, so you keep accelerating.
There's a lot of benches get missed at the top.
Yep, just on that last bit.
Yeah, and it's probably because a lot of it is because you're not pushing it hard all the way.
Yeah. You're not just really trying to create as much force as you can.
Yeah. But
nothing's
there's a
changed
sweet
there.
spot there with loading and volume and intensity. Like too much is too much. It'll wear you out.
And what was your training philosophies back then? Like, did you think much about it, or was it just let's fucking
go hard go hard until you fell over in a heap and get up and go again. That was initially, and then
Then we got smarter.
then I got smarter. So I trained hard, and then after that, I actually sat down for 2 days in my kitchen with a calculator, and every training program I could get a hold of out of every magazine, all of my training programs, and I sat down and worked it out
on an old school calculator?
on an old school calculator.
So that was just to confirm for the younger listeners. That was an abacus. An abacus.
On an abacus. Yeah. It had like apples and pears and stuff.
That's amazing.
And a pen and paper.
Yeah, and a pen and paper. But yeah, I worked that out, and then probably one of the most important questions I asked myself was before a competition: when do you want to do your last squat? When do you want to do your last bench? When do you want to do your last deadlift? I worked that out, and then I backtracked it.
Yep.
I showed you here one day on the whiteboard, and then I backtracked that. And that worked really well. Like, that'll get you to about a 950 total. So I don't know.
You heard that here first on the platform. Backtrack your training, and you will have a 950 total.
Just a
Dino
950.
Toci approved.
If you work in that, it wasn't until I structured the rest periods into the training that the big gains came.
So like more like the word deload.
Don't swear at me.
Okay, so my apologies.
Two words you're not allowed to mention: deload and core.
Core.
Yeah, I found different over the years. From when I started, I was like really fit, and I could do a lot of reps and that sort of stuff. Towards the end,
Yeah, but you're only moving that far.
yeah, that's it. That's a lot. But towards the end, I had specific goals that I'd go to, and I didn't try to improve my training.
Yep.
I'd stick to a specific weight. They were both 305 and 305 for 3, squat and deadlift. That was it. I'd train to that, and I'd either have a good day or a bad day. On a good day, I'd do a 330 and a bit, and a bad day, I'd do 320 and a bit. But if I'd tried to, like I did with that 325 triple, it didn't mean anything because it was half plate. You're heavier than what you think you are. You're coming back in weight. It's at a comp where you're going through it. It ain't going to equal what it does on the platform. Because you can do it in training at 3 or 4 kilo heavier at your own timing, not in a comp where the referee's standing out the front like that. It's different. So you've got to work out what equals what to you in a competition. Everyone's different, so you've got to work out what suits you.
Yeah, the big point you've missed there, Mason, is that we used to do the competition lifts in training. Basically, like we were fairly harsh on each other. Like as far as like critique in the lift, it was very strict. It was squats were. I find one thing people do today is they don't stand up straight at the start. I see a lot of that. If you don't stand up straight, you're probably not going to get back there when you finish the lift. So you bend over at the start. IPF,
And probably not going to get a start call from Dino or Mace either.
IPF you won't. I saw Glenn Waskill standing up with 300. The ref had his arm up and he wasn't given the signal and he put it back down and went again. They were ruthless.
Yeah.
So, like...
IPF, you
whenever
see it all
he
the
says
time,
he's
with fingers
squatting-
up like that. Racket, mate. Fingers not around the bar. And that's the way they're... Well, no, they've got to have their hand around the bar. It's got to start in the same position it finishes. So you can't open your hand in an IPF comp. It's got to be held around the bar and it's got to finish in the same position. It's got to stay in that position Whatever that position is, you must hold it.
Wow.
So if you're bench pressing and you went like that, that's a red light
Yep.
because you haven't maintained your initial position. That's the way it was. So people, but probably we trained like that because that was no one knew any different.
Yep.
So
Well, that's what came back from the World Championships. So, you know, like from the Worlds back to the Nationals, back to the States, and that's what you did. But all the lifts, what we're trying to say is all the lifts were done in competition style, you know, and the technique was competition. So if your squats weren't in, if you weren't practicing what you were doing, it's train like you play like you train.
Yep.
It's simple.
with bands and that back then, we really couldn't use them because we used like freestanding squat racks.
Oh,
How
yeah,
the hell do you set up a band? You know, like you pull
Yep.
the whole thing over or the whole little claps. Chains a little bit more so for benching, really, than squatting because they were just a bit complex for squatting. You know,
Yep.
you got to walk back with them and they're swinging around and
Yep. No,
pretty hard to do. No monoliths, no. Yeah, power racks.
Power rack was the only thing we had.
Yep.
But you still have to walk back with them, you know.
Yeah.
But when they said, but we never really trained in power racks at all.
Well, I
you
did
know?
initially.
Yeah.
I
did
did.
at
I had
one
one up
stage
in
towards
Cairns.
the end,
Yep.
but we never. And you could use bands then
Yep.
because you can bolt
But
them
we all
around.
got together, like you'd have
Yeah.
4 or 5 people around a squat rack squatting.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'd spot and when it was your turn, you'd wrap and go, load
Yeah.
it.
Got some big weights too.
What was your mentality getting under a fucking heavy squat? Were you thinking about much? Were you thinking about like?
Squatting. Shit.
Were you guys like the argy bargy type
Yeah.
thing?
Barbells, face slapping.
Both.
Yeah. I wasn't a face slapper.
Yeah, no, I did a little bit for a little while, but found out it was stupid and didn't help. But I used to get more mechanical with it,
Yeah.
think it through like a machine, lift like
Yeah.
a machine, lift like a robot, have that mentality. Early days, you used to rant and rave and carry on, but then you'd fall over with and blow your seat and everything else, so it didn't help. And I thought, oh, that doesn't look so good, you know.
No, it's-
So you're better off being in control of it than ranting and raving and carrying on like a deal. By the time I got deadlifts, was a little different.
Yep.
Because you can, it's not going to matter so much. You can rant and rave then and
Get a little amped up.
probably do all right. Squatting, no, I'm going with more mechanical. Think like a robot.
Yep.
Get it right. Finger here, finger here.
Good
Hold it
groove.
where you want it. 1 step, 2 step. Because we had to walk back, so it was always quite 1 step, 2 step, 3 step to get in that position that you used to. Because you get out, it'll tip you.
Toe heel, like if you take a big step with 300 on your back, well,
You're fucked.
Oh yeah. If you lose control of it, you're in trouble. Yeah.
yeah, so you just do like a little slide your foot back and put your toe at your heel level and then
Yeah. Shuffle back. Yeah.
just shuffle back and out,
But they were very skillful at it.
back and out.
Because we did it for every rep.
Yeah, that was exactly
If you
what
did
you
it
had.
if you did it every training session for a year, you'd probably get pretty good at it.
Absolutely.
And that's what we did.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, but definitely not the rant. But some guys did, some guys didn't. You'd see some would be like a mice and walk out there. The finish lifters, they'd look like they were
Adam
good
Kay
at
was
school.
like that. Wouldn't make it. Adam Kay wouldn't say anything.
Yeah,
He was just very calm.
about
just
it.
look like
Yeah.
just stay at the
Mike
office.
Bridges, extremely calm.
Yeah.
Just say nothing.
Fucking
You know.
hell. Well, how do you guys see the future of powerlifting? 'Cause you guys have been around quite a while.
Sorry,
You've
who-
got lots of experience, in powerlifting.
Where do you think
Where
this-
do you see the future now? What do you sort of see for you? Is it cool to see all the exciting stuff that's happening
Look-
at the moment, particularly in Australia?
Yeah, look, the split up in the associations, I don't think's been good. Like, there's 11 world federations now. There's 52 or something in America, national federations.
I think there's
Where'd
more
that
than
come from? And it split in 1986, and the 3 people involved with the split, Larry Pacifico, Ernie Franz, and John Inza, were all producers of equipment. Hello, it
Yeah.
had nothing to do with anything else, because the IPF were limiting, especially Inza, because he was, with the shirts and that sort of stuff, he invented that stuff. That got through by default, because no one had ever said you can't ever support it. In 1970, they put in a picture of a T-shirt. There was no such thing as a supportive T-shirt, so they didn't use the word supportive. They just said a T-shirt. You've got to wear a T-shirt, mate. And he ended up making them. The first one didn't work that good. They did something, but they, you never got what you weren't going to get. I know in '88 I'd done 192 with one at the Nationals and 192 without one at the Worlds. Exactly the same. You done more at the Worlds than you did at the Nationals.
Yeah, 230 tested.
Yeah, that you done. What you do at the
T-shirt.
Nationals with one on,
With a t-shirt.
without a shirt on,
I
and
think
it didn't make a holiday.
Yeah, I was coming back from a rotator cuff tear. Like I was in a pretty bad car accident.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, got hit from behind. I was in a 78 model Honda Accord and got hit by a XC panel van.
Oh, fuck.
Sorry, you're coming back from a rotator cuff and
you benched.
nursing.
Yeah, it took me 6 months to get back to 227.5.
I think it only took us 6 months to get back to about 140. So we'll catch you. We'll catch you, Dino.
We didn't have COVID, so
Yeah, I'll blame the COVID.
we're closer to the Spanish flu. We're just coming off that one.
That's
That's
awesome.
true, unfortunately.
Bloody hell. So where do you see the sport going now then?
Look, I think
Do you see it coming back to one federation ever?
no.
No,
No.
no.
I don't see it myself because there's too many personalities involved.
Yeah.
You know, and it ain't going to change. You know, there's always someone's got a special interest and they're going to want to paddle their own canoe, and that's fine.
Yep.
You know, that's the way it is. You know, and it ain't going to change. And they've got the ability to do it. They're going to do it. It's unlikely they're ever going to come back. You know, the IPF will probably always hold the high ground because they've got the World Games and the Olympics with the Paris. So they're always going to have that where they can claim to be an Olympic sport,
Yep.
be the only powerlifting at the World Games.
Yep.
So that's the Olympics that isn't the Olympics. So they're always going to have it there, and the sheer numbers in Europe. You know, like the 1.2 million they've got worldwide lifters. You know, it's phenomenal. You know, in Australia, it's hadn't been the last medals we got in Australia, the '88 Worlds. The last medals Australians ever got open. I'm not talking about masters and juniors.
Yep.
They've got a few.
Yep.
And Katrina Roberts, 96, 95, 96. She got won two worlds.
Yep.
That was the last woman to ever do it. So we haven't gone forward, definitely. But then again, split. If we had all those guys today, which you got some great lifters out there, you know, Patrick and those guys, like if you had all them lifting, we'd probably do all right. The Russians are a hard act to follow, but, you know, and especially when you only got them, you got Ukrainians and Polish and a whole lot. Like you look at that, Oleg and that.
Yeah, they're freaks.
Yeah. And they've got another one, and the Russian guy only loses on body weight, you know, we beat him last year.
Fucking hell.
But you know, they're going 900 at 82. At 75, 74. Anyway,
That's
and
just
they get
insane.
done when they're winning it on body weight, you know. And there's a heap of depth in it, you know. So they're sort of got the, you know, that area
Yep.
that they've got it covered with the European. It's European. America's a whole different, you know, that's a, God knows over there. There's that much of different stuff, you know, and it's just
I think
different.
during the 80s we did have a lot of depth in most of the divisions.
Yeah, especially through the middle. In Australia or world.
Well, in Australia,
Yeah, Australia. We had
you
a
know,
lot of 80s, a lot of 90s. 85, you had to be 800 a place at the Nationals. 100s was always tough. 110s was always tough. Usually didn't have the same, you know.
didn't have the
weight.
same depth, but you'd always have two or three there. Like,
There's heavyweight lifters today are phenomenal. What we've got in Australia, they're sort of you know, they've come a level that we never had. You know, like they're way Dylan, Odell, you know, like those guys are way. There was nothing like them as heavyweights. Middleweights were about, you know.
They were your strong links.
Yeah, pretty similar, better, worse. You know, they weren't. There was nothing in it really.
Yeah.
But this heavyweights definitely. You know, the 950 Ray had for umpteen years. You know, like that's sort of gone now, and so it should have. You know, really. Ray was a great lifter. You know, but he was over 3 sports, represented Australia in 3 different sports.
Wow.
So,
That's fucking cool, eh?
4, I think.
I don't know if he
Because he
represented
did
Australia.
Olympic lifting,
Yeah, Olympic lifting.
shot put.
Wrestling was
You're
the
leaving
other
out
one.
wrestling
Yeah, I
and
don't know if he
powerlifting.
ever- yeah,
yeah,
one
he
he
did.
didn't- I
Went to
don't know if shot
Mongolia.
putting
He did a meet in Mongolia.
Yeah, but I don't know if shot putting ever made the Australian team. But maybe.
Didn't he?
Maybe, yeah. I know it was 3, definitely 3. And it could have been
Yeah,
4.
but
Could have been.
if he didn't represent Australia
Oh, he was right
at
up
shot
there,
put, he was right up there.
See, Gail Martin and Brett Francis, they were discus and shot
He
putters.
threw
well.
he threw Olympic qualifying standard in the
Yeah.
day, I think.
Bloody hell. Fuck, I feel like...
But a lot of the lifters back then, a lot of them were bodybuilders too. They'd go in bodybuilding comps off season. Vince, Laurie Butler, Rod Sylvia.
Bloody... Did you guys ever step on stage, you two?
Yeah, I did once.
Did ya?
Hey, there we go. Their tight little pants.
On stage pointing at seagulls.
He went no
go.
pants.
Like Lee Priest was only about 18 at the time, but
Oh,
Lee sort of got a
You went
bit
up
ahead of me.
You went up against Lee Pre.
No. But he was only a kid at the time. Like, he was probably 18, and he was just
Yeah.
coming of age then, like 18 with 18-inch arms or whatever they used to say he had.
Far out.
But he's only, like, even I look top sort of thing. Oh, no, probably not much in it, is there?
He's only
Say there's a
short.
little bit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Might be metric.
He might be 5'3" and 7'8".
Yeah, it's not a lot in it,
5'3" and
yeah.
3/4. He might have you.
But he went probably Australia's best ever bodybuilder, maybe, John Torelli,
yeah,
maybe, I don't know,
Lee's one of the legends.
Oh,
He's
absolutely, yeah,
and
yeah.
like a younger generation, most don't even know of him,
Yeah.
which is even worse. Like, he's fucking
weapon.
Oh, an animal.
But even Andy Cunningham, he powerlifted. And a lot of them did, like there was a lot of them would have a go at powerlifting. They weren't afraid. Clyde Alani, he was Mr. Queensland. He used to powerlift. Pretty good too. Like 9 something.
He did 920.
Did 920? Fuck, he was a
hell.
110. He was a gorilla. Like he was just like, he looked like Bird or Fox. Like that. Seriously, not Bird or Fox, but you know where I'm coming from. Like
Yeah,
right up
yeah.
there with it. We were training once. I don't know where we were training, but he came to train with us. And he'd driven up from the coast, and he said, "Oh, I had a bad day, man." Like, real Tongan, and he said, "Had a bad day." He said, "This guy, he drive past me and give me the finger, and I give him the finger too. He pull up at the lights, and I pull up at the lights. He got out of his car. I got out of the car. He got back in his car, and I could not get the fucking thing over, man." And the guy would have just got out of the car and said, "Oh, my God." Would have dived back in, shut all the thing and tried to get out. And at the lights, he couldn't get away, so he said, "Could not tip the fucking thing over. Heavy car, man." Like...
So he was a bit pooped. He was a bit tired from trying to lift the car.
Shit, yeah. Like, and he was he going strongman comps and that sort of stuff. Even Kazma,
Yeah, did a few.
massive
Well,
back,
Kaz, we did a comp in '89.
With Bill
Strongman
Casmire.
comp.
Yeah, and
Fucking
We did a
hell.
strongman comp over in Perth.
Yeah.
And Kaz used to call him Rock Dog. Man, look at this.
Fucking hell.
he was a funny, because Kaz with Jason tells me that story where they're walking down the street and the guy came up and said, and in Australian slang, he said, "Fuck, you're a big cunt." But in America, came across as, "You're a cunt." So Kaz is after him down the road. And Jason's trying to run alongside, said, No, it's in the interpretation, mate.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all
It's all
good.
good, yeah.
Far out. I feel like we have
Lost in translation.
We would have only just scratched the surface of your knowledge, your stories in this last hour. Like, I reckon we could go forever. But before we unfortunately do have to wrap up,
10 big questions.
We've got 10 very, very important questions. They're very broad.
Oh, here we go.
He creates them. I don't. I just want to, that. Yeah, I know. Dino's like, fuck, what are we in for?
Henry Day loved him.
Henry Day was baffled by him. But
That's bad.
How many
so
comments were
answer
there?
how you will. They're meant to be rapid
Can we
fire.
pass?
No.
Now Johnny will ask the questions. We'll go Dino answer first, then Mason.
Are we ready?
It's got to be rapid fire.
Biggest lesson you've learned?
Okay.
That's it. That's the question. Biggest lesson you've learned?
Biggest lesson I've learned?
Yep.
I didn't even know the question.
What's the biggest lesson you have learned?
You don't rush into things.
Okay, good.
You're always going to learn.
If you could live underwater, Dino, would you?
No.
No.
What's your biggest challenge, Dino?
Getting up in the morning, tying my shoes.
Mason.
They've changed over the years. I'll stick with just getting up. Yeah, pretty much so.
Now, Dino, is cereal a soup? Would you consider cereal a soup?
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah, see?
So there's got to be a part B to that, is there?
Well, if you think it's a soup, why is it a soup? And why isn't it a soup? Why is it not a soup?
Because it's in the cereal section at the supermarket, not the soup section.
Where do you put soup? When you eat it.
In a bowl, but it doesn't mean it's
Is
soup.
it liquid? Like a soup?
No, it's not. It's not liquid.
It hasn't got soup written on it.
Yeah, okay. What if you had cereal in a box with the word soup written on it? Does that make it a soup?
But it's not. But like cereal's. No, anyways, you know what? These guys should answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel very passionately that it's not a soup.
What
not a
conspiracy theory do you think is real?
Fuck, these guys have been around with all the good ones.
Oh,
You've probably seen some
Jeez.
become real.
yeah, no comment.
What do you think, Mace?
No, pass. They're all
comment.
bullshit.
What's one of your rules?
It's lifting.
Any
Anything.
rules? Lifting rule, if you like.
A lifting rule.
Yeah.
You want a lifting
Going
rule?
first.
I'd like a lifting rule.
Yeah. Take your time.
Take your time.
Don't try and get there yesterday. Like,
Get it together. Yep.
yeah,
Would you join a cult, or have you joined a cult before?
no.
No.
How many chickens would it take to kill an elephant? Now, I think, Mace, you would probably, being a hunter, you might have some insight into this. Dino, you can go first, though.
Well, if it's frozen chicken and you fire it out of a cannon,
Yep.
What a
maybe.
good point there. That one's they use on aircraft engines?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
That'd do it.
So one. Well,
One frozen chicken.
Give him a bloody headache, I suppose.
Now, this would be good, because I'm sure you guys played plenty of these. If life was a video game, what cheat code would you like?
What? Who?
If life...
I don't know if they were around when.
Yeah, it's going
Do you know video games?
Yes. We had
If
them.
there was a cheat code,
Is that like Frogger?
yes.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't know. I'm trying to get it out.
Yeah.
So okay, so in a video game, you can input certain sequence of buttons, and you can get things like unlimited ammunition, unlimited
okay.
life, unlimited cash, like all these sorts of things. So if really what we're asking is, what special ability would you like to have in life?
Explosive tipped ammunition, I think.
I only go
Go
with
with that.
Superman.
Yeah, nice. Now, Dino, you've just been arrested. What does your family assume you've been arrested before?
No comment, Your Honour.
Mason's
Yeah,
just shaking his head.
Name, rank, serial number, that's it.
That's it.
Mate, you guys answered those questions pretty damn well. Fucking now, if any of the guys wanting to listen, want to get in touch, whether it be questions about powerlifting or just general, want to hear more stories, how can they reach you guys? Because I'm not sure if you guys are active on social media.
Email or
We're in the bunker.
send us a message.
Yeah,
Get on to Johnny.
I'm on Facebook. You can message me. A few people do, actually.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I'm
good.
not- I get
a
all
few.
the, heaps of referee stuff.
Yeah.
Either email or Facebook or
All right,
messenger.
we'll put that definitely in the show notes, how to find you guys. We'll put a...
Your friend requests are going to go through the roof now. Get ready.
I'm on Facebook.
Are you on
Yeah.
Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. I was going to say, otherwise we'll put your postal address and someone can write that letter.
Might have to. Come with back
haven't lived there
issues,
for 3
Iron
years.
Man with it.
Guys, thank you so much for giving up your time on this Saturday afternoon. We really enjoyed fucking sitting down with you legends and getting some stories out of you. I think we'll have to do it again. We're over beers, though. There needs to be beers because I reckon we'll get a lot more stories out.
The more I got into it, the more I realised I'd forgotten.
So it's settled. Beers and podcast for the next one.
Done.
Love it. Guys, thank you so much. Legends.
Thanks, lads.
Nice
Righto,
meeting. Thanks
thank
a lot.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Dino?
Once upon a time in a land far away.
That was way better.
And I'm recording.
Yeah, I love it.